welcome to this video. I have just sat and recorded this. I'm midway through editing, and I just want to point out I'm not sure whether I talked about the Lampard situation itself enough. Just to quickly say, I don't agree with sacking him this early. I think that's what I was trying to get across. But you'll see when we get into the video, sort of how I talk about it, and I'm not necessarily sure whether I actually really spoke about Lampard enough. But I love him. He's my favourite player of all time. I think he did a good job with what he had. We're in a bit of a bad blip, but he shouldn't have been sacked. We'll go into the video now. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a comment down below on your opinions. Without further ado, let's get into the video, because I'm not necessarily, and you'll see where we go with this video. It's a longer video, and we talk about a lot, but specifically, as in typical Luke fashion, I want to focus on the future. I want to focus on where we go. So we'll talk a little bit about Lampard, my thoughts, what happens, how it led up to that situation, and then where we go from there. I think is basically what this video is about. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, as you can tell by the title, I actually need to go like this. There we go. Let's zoom in a bit. We're going to be discussing the departure of Frank Lampard, what it means for the club, my opinions on it. Again, all of this is going to be my opinion. I always like to preface these videos with saying, don't come at me in the comments. It makes no difference. I read them, but I don't let them affect me anyway. Just hear me out and hear my thoughts. I've also done a bit of research for I don't often do a bit of research. I like to just go off the cuff. And if I'm wrong with anything, I'm usually wrong with things. But with that being said, I've done a little bit of research into an area which we'll take a look at, we'll discuss, we'll have a quick look later on in the video. But number one, thank you Frank Lampard, you've been an amazing player. You are a very good manager. I really enjoyed you. I'll talk about it, but you're gone. There's no coming back from that. Thank you. You got us into the Champions League. You helped progress the careers of many of the young talents, Gilmore, Mount, Hudson-Odoi. Too many to name. Reece James. You made some key signings: Werner, Havertz, Chilwell, Silva, Mendy. You've been good while you've been here, but you've left the club. My personal opinion, wasn't given enough time. At least given to the end of the season. Right, we're going to go straight into it. I'm not even going to beat around the bush with it and try and set up a video. I'm just going to speak my mind and go with my train of thought. Number one, these past 2 years, in terms of the past two league seasons, the end of the last one, the start of this one, has been outrageous. Because of the situation we are in, regardless of performances, regardless of actual football itself, it's been a madness. Okay, we've had it affecting the players, we've had it affecting managers, we've had positive results across the whole of the league, irrespective of who gets it or not. Okay. Number two, I think as a club, we did very well in terms of not necessarily just PR surrounding the situation, but just how we performed as a club throughout the whole of it. We kept players on, no one got sacked, we helped nurses, we did everything right as a club, and I respected that and I love that. Okay, but again, it affects the leagues. We've seen Man City, Liverpool, Wolves to some degree, all have dips of form throughout the season. I mean, Wolves are sat down, I don't know where. Where are they now? Wolves are sat in 14th place and haven't won a game in at least their last 5, because that's what I can see. On the other hand, I mean, Man City, they're kicking on and they're running again, they're second place, but actually, they'll go top of the table if they win. Where's that come from? See, it's so weird how the games have all planned out. Aston Villa have done incredibly well. They've had some good form. Everton, West Ham, all doing incredibly well. It's been an odd year. We can't just judge people and managers based on a 2, 3, 4 game perspective when the whole season and the whole year has been ridiculous. Okay, that's what I want to say. Number 2, we need to stop letting, not necessarily media, because it's their job at the end of it, I suppose social media is a big part of that now, but we need to stop letting Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts spread so much shite about people, players, football. Just let the information come out when it comes out. It's getting ridiculous because then it's tough because, like, yes, we've had a dip in form. We lost to Man City, okay. We lost to Leicester, again, okay. They've got an incredible side, both of them have. We beat Luton Town, he gets sacked. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's been elements I didn't like. Is sort of his way of, I don't know, the way he made substitutions surprised me a little bit. Maybe I didn't agree with the people he brought on at certain times. But he's been here for just over a year. We then chucked a load of players at him and expected him to do a job. And that isn't fair. We expected him to get results straight away, which I said at the start of the season, we shouldn't do that. I understand it's Chelsea and it's Chelsea's way, and I hate that about us, but it's not fair. You need to give someone the opportunity to progress and grow. And he wasn't given that choice, and that's why it's unfair. Moving on from that, I can understand where the board have come from and why he's been sacked. Okay, I can acknowledge it. I can say we weren't living up to expectations, but and even certain players aren't living up to expectations. But does that give us the right as fans and to determine that it's one specific person's fault? Do you know what I mean? Like, Havertz hasn't performed since he's been at the club. He just hasn't. Okay. What can we do to improve that? What's going on? Why is he not performing? That's a separate issue. Werner hasn't been clinical in front of goal. He's lacking a lot of confidence. He's getting into the positions which shows that he has the ability to do so. He's just not scoring the goals, which is an issue. What can we do to resolve that? Let's sack Lampard. Why? Can you, in the comments, sit down right now and tell me why Lampard's the person that's been sacked for this? What has he done specifically that's caused this? I don't know. Number 1. I don't know. I've lost my train of thought there. I think that's the end of that sort of rant that I wanted to go on. Second of all, let's talk about the team as a whole. We've chucked players into it. Mendy, Chilwell. And I've had this conversation with people on stream and it got me bare vexed because people were just being arseholes. But Havertz, yes, didn't come in, hasn't performed well. He's been here 6 months and had COVID. Werner, he's been here 6 months. He's getting into the dangerous areas. He's lacking a lot of confidence, which for a striker is a huge deal. Okay, fair enough. He'll start scoring. I've got faith in him. That's fine. Why are we not focusing on the fact that Chilwell's come in and he's now our left back and he's been absolutely incredible? Why are we not talking about the fact that only a couple of weeks ago Edouard Mendy went on an 8-game clean sheet streak? Oh no, okay, that's in the past now, it's fine. He lost to Man City and Leicester City, so that's just forgotten and he's shit again. I'm sorry, what? Stop digging people for one mistake. Edouard Mendy has been in, he's really, really well since he's been at Chelsea. Kepa has been shite since he's been at Chelsea. We knew that from the offset. There was tension there between the manager and him. He wasn't performing well. Still hasn't been performing well. He let in a goal against Luton, which probably didn't help Lampard's case. Why are we just digging our own players down and singling people out? Thiago Silva's come in and our defence has looked the best it's looked in 2-3 years. We've made key signings that just, like, we've spent money, and that's going to happen. We've spent 200 million odd, okay, and people will look at that and think, you've spent 200 million, mate, that's like 6-7 players we bought. Chilwell, Silva, we bought Malang Sarr, we got Havertz, Werner, Ziyech came in. I know that was already agreed. That's, wait, six signings. 6 signings. That's an average of 30 million a player. Yes, some of them have been more expensive and haven't necessarily performed up to that level of money, but you've got to think at this moment in time, for quite a lot of the Premier League clubs, I'll say, not all of them, but a majority of them, money isn't necessarily an issue in football anymore. I know it used to be. I know we're transitioning to people spending more and more and more money. But you can't just look at the money they've spent on people. We spent 50 million on Kepa. If he didn't have a release clause, it'd have been about 30. But he had a £50 million release clause. So we said, right, okay, will you accept however much? They probably said, no, he's got a release clause, pay it. Courtois left, we needed a keeper. Fine, we'll pay it. That's not representative of his value. Yes, we paid for Havertz, and yes, we paid for Werner. That's part and parcel of football nowadays, is just paying what people demand. And if we think we need them players, we will pay it. Money isn't an issue, especially at Chelsea. Let's forget all the other clubs for a minute. At Chelsea, money's just not an issue. And I don't see why it is still always this big thing. I know it's hard to not sound like almost privileged in a way, where Chelsea can just go out and spend what they want. But because they can do that, why even bother about the price tag? Yes, we've paid for a person. Why don't we just focus on the person? I think Chilwell and how much we paid for him, bargain. He's still probably one of the best left backs in the league. He's come in and he's done incredible. But no one talks about that. No one's talking about that because they're focusing on the negatives. Okay, right, let's move on. New manager. As of this moment in time, there hasn't been an official announcement of who's coming in. But of course, through Fabrizio, whatever his name is, the guy who does all the transfers and shit, through many sources, it's looking like Thomas Tuchel. Now, I said this weeks ago. I said if Lampard were to ever get sacked, whether it's now or at the end of the season, if that's the way that the club's heading and want to, I can't make their decision for them. If that's the way it was heading, he'd be the man for the job. He's German, ex-Leipzig, managed PSG, so he's got the know-how of being at a club that has, needs to win the league. Big money signing players. He's got that sort of experience and knowledge behind him. So, for me, it seemed like the obvious choice. Now, I'm gonna carry on this video in terms of he has signed as manager because it's looking likely. Apparently, everything's signed. He's in London, so let's just assume he has. If he hasn't, I'd be more surprised. So, I'm on Twitter because apparently that's where all the information comes from nowadays. Max Byfield from Sky says Thomas Tuchel is going to take over as Chelsea FC according to Sky sources. It's almost a done deal. Frank Lampard's going to be sacked today. That's 9 hours ago. Now I've got 5 hours ago. This is 433 via Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea are set to appoint Thomas Tuchel. I'm going to go with it. We're going to go with it. Okay, right, one. I'm glad we've got him. I think he's a good manager. I think he's a very good tactician. I think that's probably the one area of Lampard's management that I couldn't always see. Yes, we had players. Yes, we had them on the pitch. And yes, we needed them to gel and bond together. That's cool. But the one area of Lampard's system is I couldn't necessarily always see the aim for the game. You know, when you look at a team like Mourinho, you think, right, he's got decent defenders on the pitch. They'll try and soak up a bit of pressure and they'll break and they'll attack quick. If they're against a lot less opposition, they'll probably switch a midfielder up and try and get it to transition a bit quicker, try and be on the front foot a bit more. If you look at Klopp, it's a full-on gegenpress, you know, pressure, score goals, attack. With Lampard, it was a bit like, okay, what we're doing, we want to dominate a bit of possession, we want to try and transition, and that sort of transitional element between possession-based football and actually transitioning into scoring goals, we lacked a little bit. I will admit, I'm happy to say that. We weren't scoring enough goals, we weren't creating enough chances. We had plenty of possession, but we weren't doing much with it. So, Thomas Tuchel, I'd say, is definitely a tactician, and this is where I've done my research, so hear me out. I've looked at the reports, I've looked at the things, and we're going to do a deep delve into what could transition between Chelsea now and Thomas Tuchel. So let me go like this. If it'll work, there we go. So, why is it like that then? And the base gear on there, yeah, add screen capture. There we go. So, here's my Twitter. Obviously, it said that we're probably going to announce Thomas Tuchel. Blah, blah, blah. One, actually, I've clocked onto this earlier, and this is something that I was probably forgetting to speak about. Thiago Silva, ex-PSG, knows Thomas Tuchel very well. And if this quote's anything to go by, is that Thomas Tuchel wanted him to stay at PSG. He's now gone to Chelsea, where Thiago Silva is. Could be very well could work very well together. So here's what I've done. I've made a team. Hear me out. I've made 3 teams. I'm going to talk about this. Is a very common system that he played at Leipzig. He played a 4-2-2. And if he does transition this to Chelsea, this is what it could look like. This isn't what I'd prefer. I'm gonna start off with the one that I least like, and then talk about the next one. So, it's very much a 4-2-2 with 2 wide men and 2 strikers. He has played it a few times at PSG, where he had Neymar and Icardi up top, and then he had Di Maria and I think he had Draxler on. He had a player like Idrissa Gueye, and then he had Verratti. So I've tried to match up the sort of players that we've got here. You know, a very ball-playing winger, both sides. Although I'd say Pulisic is more like the Di Maria, but on the other side, Ziyech is more like the Julian Draxler, you know, the centre attacking midfielder pushing out wide, but like a Bernardo Silva. You've got the Idrissa Gueye here. Hello. And you've got Mason Mount, who's more like a box-to-box, ball at the feet sort of midfielder. Similar like Kante's box-to-box, but he's more defensive, he's more attacking. You know what I mean? Okay. And I did read reports for this, so you can't say he has. I read the reports. There was like a I don't know how to describe it because it wasn't in pages. It was just a really long list of all the different formations he's used and how he transitions. Anyway, I don't want him to play anything like this. Personally, I just don't think it highlights the right players for us, and I don't think it gives us much opportunity in terms of versatility around this. It's like If you were to make a sub, you'd swap off Abraham for Giroud. If you were to sub off Ziyech, I've got the subs that I'd probably like down here. Without the likes of Giroud, let's add you in. I'm using this just to help out. Now, first and foremost, what I will say is Thomas Tuchel wanted Jorginho at PSG for a little while, which means he's probably going to play. I don't like that. You guys know I don't like Jorginho at all. I don't think he brings much to the table in terms of going forward. All defensive, all he does is dominate the possession, and as we've probably seen, he's not the best at that because, again, it doesn't progress it forward or backwards, it just goes side to side and it doesn't really help. But Thomas Tuchel may use him, he may become a new player, maybe able to play it out wide and Reece James bombs forward and Chilwell bombs forward, because that is exactly how this system's set up. These two players often cut inside. The wing backs bombed forward. Let's show you this in a bit more detail. Wing backs would bomb forward like that. Kante drop back, or just again drop back, or in many cases it was Marquinhos as well, played a lot at CDM. We'll be looking at that again in a minute. And they drop back into a back three. And this midfielder would just rotate in the middle. Left, right, sort of like a, I don't know what you call it on Football Manager. Anyway, these would cut inside a little bit, these would make runs, these would try and get in at the back post. Regardless, it was a very well worked system, and if Reece James got forward, Chilwell had dropped back, so you had actually more of a back four. It was like a wing back and two centre back as a back three. You'd have a player that needed to fill in the gaps wherever the gaps were, and then this player did the same but going forward wise, which it was a nice system. It worked, but it worked because they had many different players that could play sort of these roles specifically. You had Sabitzer, Forsberg, Lima. I'm trying to think of other midfielders. Was Adams there at one point? I don't know how many of these actually played, but he had players that could play both these roles and these roles very well. And at the same time, Werner was there, so he knows that system quite well. And I suppose Silva would probably know it quite well with their previous relationships. So you've got to think about that. He's going to want to bring a tactic that fits his team, but also the ones that players know and can easily transition to. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this quite a bit. It might look more like a 4-4-2 on the Sky graphics or the BT graphics, but the attackers will be a lot more advanced as wingers. And obviously one of these, if needs be, like I say, Billy Gilmore's an easy replacement for Kante there as a nice CDM sort of player. He's impressed me a lot over the past year and a bit under Lampard. He's done very well, and I'm hoping that Tuchel can give him the opportunity. The one thing I am scared about with Tuchel coming in is the fact that these younger players aren't going to get the opportunity that they deserve. We've seen Mount come through. I think Mount solidified his place. I think he's staying in the team, and I actually think he might be a favourite for Tuchel. When you actually look at it, he's I'm not going to say he's very similar to Verratti, but his sort of build is very similar. And if he wants to play anything like, if Thomas Tuchel wants to play anything like he did at PSG, then Mount pretty much will be a solid performer. And I think he's been our best player so far this season. He was a great player last season. He deserves to stay in, and I think that's solidified. Same with Reece James. I don't think there's much better at right back that we can offer, especially going forward and backwards. Like an all-round right back is what we need. Same with Chilwell. I think they're solid. Gilmore, I'm not too sure. Hasn't really made enough appearances to really say, or to really impress a new manager. But that's when new managers come in. They look at people in training. Who can you impress? And I'm hoping Gilmore blows them away. Kovacic, on the other hand, is again another argument replacement for maybe Kante, as is Jorginho. I just really wish we'd just get rid of Jorginho. I just don't like him. With Tomori gone, we've now got Rudiger. I'm hoping he gets rid of Christensen, but I don't think he will. I think being German, he might form a better bond with Rudiger, so I hope that stays. But I do think that this is our best partnership. Zuma and Silva is arguably our better partnership. We might start seeing this a little bit more, and I'm not going to be happy if that's the case. We might even see Christensen play like he has been, and again, I won't be too happy. I need to move along because this video is getting long. But again, Havertz is another one of these replacements that can easily play one of these positions when you cut inside, can even play this position as more of a central mid sort of player, and you never know, could even play this position as a centre forward. The link up there could be very, very nice. So, all in all, I'd probably go as my starting 11 if we do play this type of system. Would just be that, I think. And they're like the 7 choices you get. I don't know if you get 7 or if you get more nowadays. So, that's the first one that we saw. That's my least favourite system. I've actually got 2 here. Because one of them, I'll show you what sort of happens. This is the other one that I was looking at. At PSG, primarily in the Champions League, so coming up against much better opposition. Which I think pays dividends to the Premier League, because I think like the bottom half of the Premier League, I'd say is miles better than the bottom half of Ligue 1. Whereas the top half and the top half are quite similar. You know, you've got your PSG, your Monaco, Marseille, which will all compete with the likes of, not necessarily your top 6, but like your Leicester, well actually I'd say Leicester's top 6 nowadays, like your Arsenals, your Evertons and your thingy. So the top half of the table in the Ligue 1 maybe a little bit closer to the Premier League level, but all in all the Premier League is a lot more difficult. So I think we're going to see a system a little bit like this, which is what we've probably seen under Lampard. I just think there might be a little bit of a better tactical direction to it. Similar setup, if not the same setup I had. Instead of having 2 strikers, I think we're just going to see 1 striker, but then it bolsters the midfield. Now this for me is my ideal lineup. Probably at the minute, even under Lampard, it was probably this. This allows Hudson-Odoi to come back onto the bench as well, and I like that. Again, put off Jorginho, but his transfers are his transfers. He's going to do what he wants, isn't he? So, where do I go with this? Mendy in goal, fine. Best keeper we've got, much better than Kepa. Silva and Zuma, I'm hoping this, but again, could be Rudiger. I think he is going to start Silva. I don't think there's going to be any doubt about that. He likes him and he's going to use him. Oh, I didn't mention Azpilicueta. I think he's going to keep Azpilicueta around the club just because Azpilicueta gets on with everyone. He's a leader. He's a dressing room masterpiece. He's club captain, as far as I'm aware. Still, and so obviously just gets there. I just don't think as a wing back, I just don't think he's good enough as James. So I'd prefer to see James start over him. It's tough. The main transition we see is sort of this half, like the defence is the defence. That's probably going to stay the same. We addressed that under Lampard. We addressed that in the summer. It's just what we do with these. We've got too many attackers at the club, and we need to get rid of a few, and midfielders. I can see Billy Gilmore getting loaned out. That's my issue. That's what I'm sort of seeing. I can see him getting loaned out, maybe to Rangers or Celtic. In fact, it might be a very good choice. He's a huge player, and he needs the experience. Gerrard's doing very well at Rangers. He's Scottish. I don't know if he's is he a Rangers or Celtic fan? That could be controversial. Anyway, Kante. In this CDM spot, it's been so long since we've seen Kante in a comfortable position, if that makes sense. Like, at Leicester, best CDM centre mid in the league by a stretch that season. Comes to Chelsea, we win the league. Absolutely incredible shift. Stupid performances, was good. We get new managers in and they try and play him here or even further. Doesn't necessarily work. I see Kante as a CDM. Whether he plays more of a centre mid that goes like this, doesn't matter. His work rate and his stamina is incredible. Keep him there. Make him run. Let him run. Let him make the tackles. Yes, injuries are sort of plagued in the past couple of, I was going to say weeks, but it's more like months. And then this gives these free roam to do a little bit more. You know, you see this line. Imagine this isn't necessarily a chemistry line, but it's more of a run / architecture. Let these players make these runs forward. Give the wingers this room to just perform. Okay. Same with Ziyech. If it's Hudson-Odoi that comes on, even better. But just give these and Werner the freedom. Now, I've got another screen, And this is how the team sets up. When you're out of possession, this is how it looks. You know, press, 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 and press. That's how he played quite a bit. He liked to press. Not necessarily like gegenpress, like where it's like press and make a tackle, but it's press and maybe force an error. And then if you press and you press, you go out wide, you come into this gap, you come across and just force the space close. Whereas, in possession, it looked a lot more like this. Mount stays as your box to box, Kante covers, and Havertz is allowed free roam of this, which I think he's missed. Havertz, under Bayer Leverkusen, was given this sort of free rein to just be a bit more creative. We've seen it with, like, how can I describe it? Bruno Fernandes at Man United. I'm not going to compare the two. I'm not saying that Havertz is better than Bruno before you guys start arguing with me about that. What I am saying is that Bruno came in, he filled in this cam spot that was obviously missing for a long time. He was given the creative freedom to just play, you know, make a pass, take a shot, dribble around a few people. He was given that freedom and it helped. Whereas I think Havertz has almost been a little bit stifled in what he's been able to do. It's been a bit more, keep the ball at your feet, make sure you play the pass, don't lose possession. It's been more like negative, like don't do this and don't do this and don't do this, rather than just go out there and just have fun, express yourself a little bit. And then especially going forward, you've got the wing backs that can bomb forward. If the wing backs bomb forward, in fact this is probably a bit more of a bad example, because Mount will join in. It will probably turn back to this. Like Havertz will go there, Kante will slide in at the back. Well, okay, so if Chilwell gets forward, Rudiger will come across. So let's do this. How can I do this? It will be a little bit like that. If Chilwell runs forward, Pulisic will be in this sort of centre mid spot. Mount will fill in. No, what have I done? I've just chatted absolute waffle there. There we go, that's much better. But, I don't know, I'd like to see, and we probably will see it under Thomas Tuchel, a lot more of like a tactical direction and a sense of know-how. But that is what comes with experience, that's what comes with the know-how and the knowledge. Lampard didn't necessarily have that straight away. Like I say, it was his second job. I didn't expect him to have it, but the process needed to be there, and the, you know, this trust in the process bollocks. Like, I wish we'd have seen it. There's no point looking back at it now thinking you should have done this, thinking that they're going to change their mind. They're not. The best thing that we can do as fans right now is to get behind the new manager and not go, I can't believe you've replaced Lampard, you've replaced the club legend, you don't deserve. What would be the point in that? It's only going to make matters worse. And as fans, all I want to do is see the club progress, get better, and enjoy watching them play. So, it's been a bit of a long video, a half an hour video. I'm hoping this is the system that we see. I'm hoping that in the near time we sell Jorginho. It's not going to happen. I've got a suspicious feeling Gilmour will go out on loan either this season, or no, either now or at the end of the season. Jorginho will be the player here. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here and make a promise to you guys that if he does start playing more games, which undoubtedly he will, because I think Thomas Tuchel's a fan of him, we've heard about it in the past, I'm going to give him until the end of the season, Jorginho. I'll give him to the end of the season to impress me. If he does, then fair play. It was a system we were playing and he wasn't good enough. No. It was a system and the team as a whole wasn't good enough, is what I'm going to say. However, if by the end of the season he still hasn't impressed me, I'm gonna keep that value to my heart. I'm going to say I don't like him, he's not a good player and he needs to go. But like I say, I'm giving him to the end of the season under a new manager who likes him, who will get on well with him, and undoubtedly start him. We're probably going to see something more like this at the minute. And I'm really hoping we don't see this. Because dropping Mount is probably going to be the worst option we could do. it'll probably be that because Kante's injured. I know Kante's injured. I know some of these players are injured, but think about like as a better lineup. I'm hoping we see that, and we don't see Rudiger too often. I'm really hoping he doesn't come in and say, "I want ball playing centre backs," and go something like that, because that'd be terrible. Again, the thing I wouldn't mind happening, now that we've got someone like Tuchel, who again has quite a decent relationship with a lot of players, I wouldn't mind him going, you know what, these two aren't good enough. This guy is. Silva's going to be retiring soon. He might even leave at the end of the season, we're not sure. He is ex-Leipzig. That's now on the cards. And he liked him, and he used him, and arguably probably got the best out of him. Or did Nagelsmann get the best out of him? Or was it Nagelsmann? Whichever. Something like that could happen in terms of transfers. We haven't really talked about transfers. I don't particularly want to, just because I don't know where we're heading. Right, we'll give it 6 or 7 weeks. I'll see how Chelsea performs. I might do a follow-up video to this in 6 or 7 weeks, depending on what tactical direction we go in and any weaknesses that we can see within the team. I've probably even missed Chelsea players off here that we've got at the club. Like Giroud isn't even on here. And as much as I like Giroud, I think he'll be gone by the end of the season. I don't think we're going to use him. Abraham put in an amazing performance against Luton, scored a hat-trick, did very well. Has picked up an injury, hasn't he, recently as well? I'm missing players here and I just don't know who. Obviously, Jorginho's there. We're missing Emerson and Alonso for a start. Their wing-backs don't really care. Centre-backs, Christensen, Rudiger, James, Azpilicueta, Mendy, Kepa, Jorginho, Kante, Billy Gilmore, Mount, Havertz, Jorginho. Look at the depth we've got. Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, CH. Who else? I feel like I'm missing someone. Do you know what I mean? Not missing anyone so far. No, not missing anyone. Okay. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts down below. What you'd like to see in terms of Tuchel coming in. What your thoughts are about. I've just read this tweet 2 hours ago. Thomas Tuchel will not be exempt from the quarantine list, but under the FA rules, as long as he tests negative before coming into the country. This was 2 hours ago, so maybe he's not in London. As long as he tests negative, he can then join Chelsea's bubble for training and games, allowing him to manage the team. He'll just have to quarantine for 5 days prior. So, you never know. Yeah. So, again, let me know your thoughts down below. What you want to see from Thomas Tuchel, provided that he is made manager, that is. Where you think we're going to head. What you think is going to really change. Who you think is going to go in and out of the club. And whether you think those players going in and out of the club is going to be for the best or the worst. So, I'll see you guys later.